Dante's Boxing Nation, what's going on, guys? So Floyd Mayweather, he finally gives his take on the Terrence Crawford versus Errol Spence fight, and he didn't give Terrence Crawford any credit at all. Floyd Mayweather said that Errol Spence should be fighting at 168. He said he should be fighting at 160 or 168 and not at 147. Now, I'm going to go ahead and unpack all of this, but before I do, let's go ahead and go into this clip. This is what he said to Fight Hype. Check it out.
I want the best for Errol Spence. So, if I was training him or I was in his corner, I don't think he should be fighting at 147 at all. I don't even think he should be fighting at 154.
Really?
I think he should be fighting at 160 or 168.
Wow.
That's just my honest opinion. You know, but once again, I don't have no say so. You know, when these guys, you know, certain fighters, when they want to fight, our job is to line it up. And us fighters, we're warriors. We always want to fight the best. It's just how it is.
Okay, so that's pretty much all that Floyd Mayweather said about the whole fight. He never congratulated Terrence Crawford. He never said that was a terrific win. Nothing of the sort. Instead, he only focused on talking about Errol Spence. You heard him say, I want the best for Errol Spence. And apparently, the best for Errol Spence, according to Floyd Mayweather, is him fighting at 168 pounds or 160 pounds. But we know that Errol Spence has been fighting at 147 his entire professional career, so that's where all of his best wins at. Now, understand this, guys. Now, if Errol Spence would have been looking like really bad before the Terrence Crawford fight, going into the Terrence Crawford fight, he had some terrible performances. He was missing weight. And if people were saying things like what Floyd Mayweather just said, if people were saying this before the Terrence Crawford fight, then that excuse would be worth listening to. But when you say it after the fact that everyone was looking at this fight as a 50-50 fight, even the people that were picking Terrence Crawford, they still seen this as a very, very back and forth seesaw battle. But what's really ironic is the fact that Fight Hype started off this question comparing Terrence Crawford, Errol Spence performance to Floyd Mayweather versus Diego Corrales' performance. He said to Floyd Mayweather, a lot of fans are comparing this fight to the Diego Corrales fight. What's so ironic about that is even when Floyd Mayweather fought Diego Corrales, fans started to make the same excuses for Diego Corrales. They said that Floyd Mayweather had drained Diego Corrales because originally Diego was about to move up to 135. He decided to stay at 130 to make this last fight at 130 against Floyd Mayweather. And fans, including old media, including HBO commentary, Jim Lampley and Larry Merchant, they were somewhat making excuses for Diego Corrales because the fight was at 130. So once again, the same excuse they made for Diego Corrales is now the same excuse that Floyd Mayweather is making for Errol Spence. But the reality is Floyd Mayweather, he beat the same Diego Corrales that was running over everyone else before he got in the ring with Floyd Mayweather. Terrence Crawford beat the same Errol Spence that just looked fantastic against your Dennis Ugas. That is the reality. Now, if you were fighting against the Roy Jones Jr. that got knocked out by Antonio Tarver, then you could make excuses for someone and say, oh, well, you know, that wasn't the real Roy Jones. Because it wasn't, right? After Roy Jones got knocked out by Tarver, he was never the same. And all of us can agree to that. There is no one that was looking at this Errol Spence-Terrence Crawford fight and saying, oh, you know, this fight is really not that big because Errol Spence shouldn't even be fighting at 147. He should be fighting at 168. Another crazy thing is Diego Corrales, who was nearly 6 foot tall, when he moved up to 147, he got completely annihilated. And you would think that Diego Corrales would do really well at 147, but that was not the case. He was fighting against much bigger guys that could hit much harder, and because he lacked defense already, it turned out to be a recipe for disaster. There have been so many fighters that stayed at a weight class, but it looked like they clearly could have easily been fighting at a much higher weight class, and once they moved up, they got completely destroyed. Now, Antonio Margarito, he was a huge welterweight. If you look at his frame, He looked like he could easily fight at 168. But the reality was he was not comfortable fighting at 154 because he tried it one time. This was when he was still on his way up, way before he got knocked out by Shane Mosley. He moved up to 154, he fought one guy, and he ended up moving right back down to 147 because he felt more comfortable at 147. It's very difficult to determine if Errol Spence will be more comfortable fighting at 168 or 160 when he's never fought there before. Not to mention, Errol Spence, he kept talking about in the build-up leading up to this fight, he kept talking about how it has been much easier for him to prepare to make the weight now that he knows how to eat. He was talking about before, he said before this fight, he had to starve himself. But now he's getting to really enjoy his food, and he does not have to worry about not making weight. He's making weight a lot more easier than he was before. This is what Errol Spence said. Matter of fact, if you guys watch All Access, you'll see Errol Spence was eating burgers right before the fight, just to show you how conditioned he was and how prepared he was to make the weight. You know, right after Floyd Mayweather started talking about how Errol Spence, he should be fighting at 168 or 160, he then started to talk about fighters being compared to him, fighters from the past, fighters from today. They're all being compared to Floyd Mayweather. So he was clearly talking about Terrence Crawford. And it makes more sense when you think about Floyd Mayweather, him making excuses for Errol Spence, because after all, it's not Errol Spence obviously being compared to Floyd Mayweather, it's Terrence Crawford, for good reason. And there's no doubt about it. The way Terrence Crawford completely dominated Errol Spence, made it look like one of the easiest fights of his career, that definitely makes him the most comparable fight to Floyd Mayweather. Because there's no reason to talk about who pound for pound the best fighter in the world is today. We all know who the best fighter in the world is today. It's undisputed. It's not up for debate. The only question right now is, where does Terrence Crawford rank amongst the best or the greatest fighters of all time pound for pound list? Top 5, top 10. Where does he rank when you're comparing him to Floyd Mayweather? Those are the only questions today. Because to be a two-time undisputed champion, to knock out every single welterweight that he has faced, and we're talking about names like Sean Porter, Errol Spence, fighters that have never been stopped. You guys have to understand, it is extremely difficult to knock out fighters on this level. You rarely see it. If you look at some of the biggest power punchers in the sport of boxing, some of the best punchers, you will notice when they stepped up in competition, the knockouts kind of evaporated, but not with Terrence Crawford. Terrence Crawford has the most dangerous combination in the sport of boxing: athleticism, a high boxing IQ, and power to top it all off, and arguably the greatest finisher of all time in the sport of boxing. And this is the reason why you can compare him to fighters like Floyd Mayweather and every other great fighter, top 5 in the world. Because right now, after that performance, Terrence Crawford is up there in the top 5. He's up there in the top 5 for sure. So I think Floyd Mayweather, he just has a little bit of a competitive edge. And that's the reason why I truly believe Floyd Mayweather, he never congratulated Terrence Crawford. He never talked about how great of a performance this was. It's also important to note that a lot of these fighters, they go off of what is the popular narrative. They see what's being tweeted, they see what fans are saying, and they usually repeat it. In fact, I remember even when Floyd Mayweather didn't know who he was asked, who's pound for pound the best fighter in the world? And Floyd Mayweather said, what's that guy's name? And a reporter said, you mean Chocolatito Gonzalez? And Floyd said, yeah, that guy. He's the best in the world. And that was over Andre Ward. This was literally when no one knew who he was. The only people that knew who Chocolatito Gonzalez was old media, because they were the ones that was pushing the propaganda saying that he was pound for pound the best fighter in the world. And fighters like Floyd Mayweather and Roy Jones Jr., they completely followed that narrative without missing a beat. With that being said, I'm gonna go ahead and wrap this video up. That's all I got for now, guys. I'm on to the next one.
NWA Connie Corsos proudly presents the Southern Classic Litter. The breeding between Scandafio's Rambo and NWA's Nyla is confirmed, and pups will be here within 30 days. Get ahead of the pack by getting your application in at nwaconniecorsos.com. Our pups come with a 24-month health guarantee. Contact us on any platform at NWA Connie Corsos. We stand behind our dogs.
All right, now check this out, guys. If you're looking to repair eczema scars, burns and bruises, dark spots and blemishes, the fever blisters, diabetic ulcers, this right here is the perfect product for you guys. It's called Errol Face and Body Oil. Athletes and top-ranking boxers, they're also using it after training to reduce swelling, inflammation, and to ease the pain. So get yours today. Go to erroldequis.com, like them on Facebook, and follow them on Instagram. Let me tell you guys about Issa Israel Law Firm. It is a full-service legal practice based in Denver, Colorado, an emerging hub for combat sports and high-altitude training. If you're a fighter inside or outside of the ring and you need a law firm you can trust to fight for you, visit thefighterfirm.com or email help@iilawfirm.com. Legal representation is usually limited to plaintiffs or defendants in Colorado, but iFirm can help anyone in the world with trademarking their business name, logos, and U.S. immigration issues. This brother has been my attorney for a while and helped guide me through all kinds of business and civil issues, so make sure you guys go to thefighterfirm.com.